Amara was the jewel of the Omoluwas. She was beautiful, brilliant, and ambitious. As the only daughter of Chief Omoluwa, a wealthy businessman known across the state, her life seemed like a fairy tale to outsiders, but behind her charming smile, Amara carried the burden of her father's unrelenting traditional values. One fateful evening, her father summoned her to the family parlor. "Amara," he began, his deep voice as commanding as ever, "you're 26 now, and it's time you settled down. I've made arrangements for your marriage." The announcement hit her like a storm. "You made arrangements?" she echoed, her voice rising with disbelief. "Yes, to someone I trust deeply," he replied, ignoring her outrage. "Joshua, my driver." Amara stared at him, horrified. Joshua, the humble man who had driven her to school as a child and now chauffeured her to meetings? A man who wore second-hand suits and lived modestly in the servants' quarters? "Father, this is absurd. You can't—" "I can," he interrupted sternly. "Joshua is honest, loyal, and will protect you in ways money cannot buy. You'll thank me someday." Amara stormed out of the room, her heart pounding with anger and humiliation. The thought of marrying someone so beneath her social standing was unbearable. Joshua, on the other hand, was equally surprised when Chief informed him of the plan. "Sir, I'm honored, but are you sure about this? Amara deserves a man of integrity, Joshua, and that's you," Chief replied. Reluctantly, Joshua accepted, more out of respect for Chief than a desire to marry Amara. He knew how she viewed him, just a driver, but he had no ill intentions. Amara, however, was convinced that Joshua had agreed to the arrangement for access to her father's wealth. With no choice but to obey her father's will, she entered the marriage, determined to make Joshua's life as miserable as her own. The wedding was a quiet affair, devoid of the glamour Amara had always dreamed of. She wore a simple gown, her face a mask of cold indifference. Joshua, dressed modestly but neatly, said his vows with quiet sincerity. Life after the wedding was a battlefield. Amara went out of her way to show Joshua that he didn't belong in her world. She ignored him during meals, refused his attempts at conversation, and even went so far as to move into a separate bedroom. Joshua bore it all with patience. He continued to work as Chief's driver, waking up early and returning home late. Despite her coldness, he treated her with respect, always asking if she needed anything before leaving for the day. One evening, after a particularly heated argument about household matters, Joshua calmly said, "Amara, I know you think I'm here for your father's money, but you're wrong. I didn't ask for this marriage, and I won't force you to like me, but I'll keep my word to your father to take care of you, no matter how difficult you make it." His words unsettled her. She wasn't used to men who didn't retaliate or try to control her. For the first time, she wondered if there was more to Joshua than met the eye. But her pride wouldn't let her soften. Instead, she continued her silent war, convinced it was only a matter of time before Joshua showed his true colors. As weeks turned into months, Amara began noticing things she hadn't before. Joshua was kind to everyone, from the gatekeeper to the local vendor. He worked tirelessly, often skipping meals to ensure Chief's errands were handled flawlessly. And despite her hostility, he never raised his voice or lost his composure. One afternoon, Amara fell ill. It started with a fever, but by evening she was too weak to get out of bed. Joshua, noticing her condition, rushed to her side. He called a doctor, stayed up all night to sponge her forehead, and prepared a bowl of pepper soup using a recipe his late mother had taught him. When Amara woke the next morning, she was surprised to find him asleep in a chair by her bedside, his hand still holding hers. For the first time, she felt a pang of guilt. "You didn't have to do all this," she said softly when he woke up. "I promised your father I'd take care of you," he replied simply. His words, paired with his selfless actions, began chipping away at the wall she had built around her heart. Amara started to see Joshua for who he truly was, a man of integrity, humility, and quiet strength. The turning point came during a family crisis. Chief's business faced a severe financial blow, and creditors began circling like vultures. Many of the chief's so-called friends deserted him, but Joshua stood firm. He sold his modest car and used the money to pay off some of the smaller debts. He worked late into the night, helping Chief strategize a recovery plan. His loyalty and selflessness moved Amara deeply. One evening, as they sat in the garden after another long day, Amara finally spoke the words she had been holding back. "Joshua, I misjudged you. I thought you married me for my father's wealth, but now I see you're a better person than I ever gave you credit for." Joshua looked at her, his eyes soft with understanding. "I never wanted to force this marriage on you, Amara, but I promised your father I'd protect you, and I'll keep that promise as long as you let me." Tears filled her eyes. For the first time she saw the depth of his character, the quiet sacrifices, the unwavering loyalty, and the love he had shown her in 1,000 small ways. Over the weeks that followed, their relationship blossomed. Amara let down her guard, and Joshua's patience and kindness won her heart completely. What began as an arrangement born of duty transformed into a love story neither of them had expected. By the end of the year, Amara could hardly believe how far they had come. She no longer saw Joshua as her father's driver, but as her partner, her confidant, and the love of her life. And for Joshua, Amara was no longer the haughty daughter of his employer, but the woman who had taught him that love could grow even in the most unlikely circumstances.
There are a lot of lessons to be learned from this story. I would love to hear your opinion in comment section. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to like, share, and press the red button to subscribe to my channel. Bye.